I'm sure you've heard of the fairly popular indie animated show Murder Jones. Produced by Glitch Productions and residing on the Glitch Productions channel, Murder Jones is their second most popular show. And of course, Murder Jones was created, directed, and written by Liam Vickers. But for once on this channel, I'm not going to be talking about Murder Jones, but I'm going to be talking about Liam Vickers, more specifically his past projects. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, I already know about Liam Vickers' animation, Cliffside and Internetian Cube and stuff like that, and although I will talk about those things in this video, although probably much later, I'm thinking of starting a lot further back in time. I want to start off with his projects that he made over a decade ago. Now before I start this video, I do want to give a small shout out to these creators and their videos on this specific section of Liam Vickers' journey. I'm pretty sure they do a way better job at describing the ins and outs of the creations of these projects, along with just giving very detailed and also well-explained explanations on each one of his creations or stories or shows or whatever you want to call them. So I'd highly recommend going to check out those videos after you're done with this one. Now a little bit of background knowledge. Before this, Liam Vickers has been making lots of creepypastas and stories basically outside of YouTube before this. Although I have no access to any of that stuff, nor do I even think there's much of it. It's just good to know that he was probably doing a lot of other stuff before this, so that's just something to keep in mind. Also, just a little bit of a disclaimer before we go into this. The entirety of SSTWL is basically just audiobooks. There isn't barely any animation except for some intro sequences in some of the series, so if you're expecting to see like animatics or even fully animated shows for some reason, I would get those hopes and throw them out the window because they are all audiobooks. Just literally a still frame for like 20, 30, or even 40, or even 2 hours long, which makes it kind of boring to just sit and watch. But even worse than that is trying to make a video off of it because there is barely any engaging footage to use. I'm going to hate editing this video. Scary Storytime with Liam, or SSTWL, which I'm going to be calling it for this video because it's less of a mouthful, is where all of Liam Vickers' stories or audiobooks reside. The first one I'm going to be talking about is called A Cold Love Story. Now there are many iterations of A Cold Love Story, going from basically the original being an audiobook, from a actual choose your own adventure video game, which is pretty hard to get since you kind of just need the file, it's not like on Steam or something. The story is basically just a girl going crazy over a guy, and by crazy I mean murdering her entire class. You know, classic yandere stuff. Of course, there's probably plenty of different endings across all the different iterations of this story, although I do not want to mention all of them, nor do I actually know all of them. What's particularly important about this story is this is where Liam Vickers started to really push a certain character archetype in pretty much every single one of his stories that he makes in the future. That being the practically insane girl archetype. Think about your favorite Liam Vickers animation or show or series or whatever. Murder Jones has Uzi, Cliffside has Cordy, Internetian Cube has Icon. They're all basically practically insane characters. And also women. This is the first iteration of this archetype, the first iteration of the basically insane or crazy girl who's obsessed with something or someone. You'll kind of see this pattern throughout basically all of the stories in SSTWL. You can see little hints and also strands of shows we are going to get in the future, which is kind of why you listen to this stuff and still pay attention to his past work. You can kind of see where he got ideas for Murder Jones or Cliffside from all the way from like over a decade ago. But that's enough talking about A Cold Love Story. Let's talk about his probably most famous and also popular story from SSTWL, Design. Now I have to be pretty careful about what I say about this story and pretty much every story in SSTWL, as a lot of them can be very easily spoiled, but I'll try to give my best explanation without giving away too much of the story, since I do also want you to check out this stuff. Design follows a character called John Matthews, And within this universe, there are these things called left hands. Left hands are parasites with pretty supernatural abilities, basically being telekinesis. They are found in hosts, pretty much only being females, except for one exception later in the show, and are basically killing machines, basically trying to wipe out all of humanity. And surprise, surprise, the government comes in and tries to control them and make them into weapons. And John Matthews, along with some of his other friends, catch themselves in the middle of it, and John Matthews has to find a way to just survive and also save one of these left hands, whose name I may or may not have forgotten whether it's a spoiler or not, so I'm just not gonna say. Now, I grossly oversimplified the entirety of the Zion's plot, and it's much better if you were just to listen to the entire thing. It's around 3 seasons long, with each episode ranging to be around 20, 25, 30 minutes, except for the first 2 episodes, which are around like 50 or 40 minutes, which may seem long, especially for like an audiobook, but compared to other things in SSCWL, it's quite short. Now, Liam did create a lot of creepypastas, or short stories, or whatever you want to call them, throughout his entirety of SSCWL. The most notable being Vampires in Romania, Mistrust Game, How Do I Sleep, and many more. Now, the next series I'm going to be talking about that Liam made was called Yellow Halogen. This show follows John Matthews. No, not the one from Design. This is a different John Matthews. Completely different concept and completely different universe. Definitely not confusing whatsoever. Yellow Halogen is a horror mystery story. It follows, like I said, John Matthews in a pretty small and quiet town. However, a mysterious serial killer is going around leaving everyone very nervous, paranoid, and scared. However, when John is accused of murder, with tensions already being high, chaos starts to ensue throughout the entire town, which leaves John Matthews, along with his sister, to try to fix everything they can and save anyone they can. Now, in my opinion, Yellow Halogen isn't exactly one of Liam's best projects. It's still pretty good, better than a lot of other corporate stuff that's been going around recently, but not exactly peak cinema. And apparently, Liam Vickers thought the same, unlisting pretty much every single thing about Yellow Halogen except for the music he made of it. Although a lot of people re-uploaded basically all of the episodes, so if you really wanted to listen to it, you could definitely find it. Next show I'm going to be talking about is Puppet Game, which follows, you guessed it, John Matthews. Now, Puppet Game is a quite unique show, kind of combining everyone from pretty much every one of his stories that he's made, which includes Yellow Halogen, Design, A Cold Love Story, and also some of his creepypastas as well, basically in a one huge multiversal crossover event. And also a death game. Now, keep in mind, the first episode of Puppet Game was released July 24th, 2016, before the entire multiverse craze that Marvel went through, and even before Infinity War. So you could say that Liam Vickers was ahead of his time, which is probably completely valid. Now, I also highly suggest that you watch all of the creepypastas and series that are included in Puppet Game before you actually watch Puppet Game, or else nothing's gonna make sense, and it won't be nearly as entertaining as it was for me, as I listened to hours upon hours of different shows or series from SSCWL just to watch Puppet Game, and it was way better. Puppet Game kind of leans into the horror sci-fi aspect of Liam Vickers' mind, along with also leaning into a little bit of comedy as well. This is kind of the first series that he's done any comedy in, so it's also kind of interesting to see where he started to implement some humor into some of his stories, as pretty much everything from here on out has some level of comedy in it. We're also given an in-universe or multiverse or whatever explanation on why so many people in Liam Vickers' stories, especially main characters, are named John Matthews, besides Liam Vickers kind of just not wanting to think of other names, with it being that it's just like a big multiverse, like everything's connected or something. I don't know, I forgot the exact explanation, but it's something like that. Also, I just want to quickly mention the music that he's been making throughout the entirety of SSCWL. He's been composing different theme songs for different characters, different series and stories, and all of it is absolutely amazing. I pretty much have all of the songs that he made in my playlist, and you should definitely go check them out. They are absolute bangers. Throughout all of my experience in listening to all of Liam Vickers' stories in SSCWL, of course I'm going to have a favorite, a story that I think is the best out of everything that I've listened to thus far. A story that is applauded for its quality, and described as the magnum opus of the SSDWL channel. I am of course referring to the series Black Dogs. This story takes place in Nebraska during the climax of an upcoming election. We follow the main character, John Matthews of course, as a bellhop in a manor in rural Nebraska. He runs into the governor's daughter Hayes, and together they try to uncover a mystery within the manor. Like I said, this is one of Liam Vickers' best work. In fact, I think it is, if not one of his best, the best work he has ever done. Better than Murder Drones, Internetian Cube, Cliffside. My description may have sounded a little boring, but I literally cannot say anything else because doing so will spoil the entire series, and therefore ruin it. It is also one of, if not the only story that Liam Vickers has made on this channel that is complete, as many of the previous work that I have mentioned is incomplete or unfinished. This is due to the fact that Liam Vickers has given up the Scary Storytime with Liam channel. He is no longer posting on it or updating it and is considered, actually in the description of the channel, dead. So don't expect Yellow Halogen to get a season 2 or anything of the sort. Before I continue to the animation days of Liam Vickers' journey, I do have to say that videos like these take a long time, especially talking about big topics like this, so I would appreciate a like, comment to help me out in the algorithm, along with subscribing, so you can stay posted on more videos like this. I appreciate it. On the Liam Vickers animation channel, there are 3 main series that are actually worth mentioning. However, he actually did make a few other animated shorts, which I'm going to go over. All of these little shorts are unlisted and also audio-less. However, they can be found probably in some random playlist, but also on his website, liamvickers.com. These little shorts are called Devil Cat, Abducted, and Butterfly Getaway. One of the main series you would see on Liam Vickers' animation channel is called Let's Split Up. Now, the only unlisted video is a short little clip from a scene from presumably the pilot, complete with color, pretty much full animation, and audio. There is an audioless storyboard, unlisted, however still on the Liam Vickers website. From what I can tell, this was supposed to become a full pilot, or maybe even a series. However, something along the way happened, perhaps other projects caught Liam's attention more, or he just gave up on the concept entirely for unrelated reasons. Nevertheless, there are a few little bits of the series left on the internet. Let's Split Up, from what I assume, is about 2 characters being Wendigos, or humanoid deer creatures, who have to eat humans to survive, trying to survive in some sort of high school area or campground or something else. Again, there's not really a lot to go off of this series. I'm sure there's plenty of more information. However, I just couldn't find it, nor could I find any other bits of media relating to this concept that Liam Vickers thought up. We're going to move on to a more popular indie animated pilot that Liam Vickers created, Cliffside. This short 12-minute long pilot was completely animated by Liam Vickers, along with being written by him as well. It takes on a very Western-like setting with monsters surrounding an entire town, with the 2 main protagonists along with a friendly monster being some sort of spider woman or something, also helping them out as well.
What just happened?
Definitely go give it a watch. It's shorter than even this video, so you really have no excuse. This is really the only series from Liam Vickers animation that Liam Vickers has really paid any attention to in recent time. He posted a little bit of art of it recently, and by recently I mean almost over a year ago. It was originally made just to see, or at least just to prove, that Liam Vickers could do it in the first place, as again he did animate and write and direct the entire thing. Although he has shown some interest, or at least has said that he would be interested in continuing the series later on. And moving on to the last but certainly not least series in the Liam Vickers animation channel thus far, Internetian Cube. Internetian Cube follows the character Max stealing a weapon called Icon, a robot that is hell-bent on killing every human around it except for Max, because it believes that Max is its administrator, which it cannot harm. And throughout the series, we're learning little bits of lore about new characters, the backstory of characters, and are left at a huge cliffhanger, just like 99% of every other Liam Vickers project. Personally, I really like this series, even though it is incomplete, and I'm also part of the group that is begging Liam Vickers to continue it to make a part 4, or at the very least, like, remake it and workshop the concepts episodes a little bit more, since it does show a lot of potential and is probably my favorite animation or series out of the Liam Vickers animation channel. And after this, Liam Vickers gets a call from Glitch and creates his most popular show yet, Murder Drones. I'm not going to talk about this show since 80% of this channel has been dedicated to videos on Murder Drones, which you can just go watch. But also, let's be honest, if you're watching this video in the first place, you've probably already watched it, so there's no point in me explaining the plot, premise, or anything of the sort. Liam Vickers has built himself quite a large legacy full of incomplete but very good stories, and very impressive animations, especially for animating some of them all solo. Now perhaps trying to watch or listen to all of Liam Vickers' past projects may be a little bit useless, but hopefully as you've watched this video you've seen patterns in all of his work, which may also allow us to see patterns in his future work and try to predict where he's going to go next. Now of course, it's pretty well known, or at least expected, that Liam Vickers is taking a break. Obviously, trying to create and run a show that is generally pretty large, along with trying to stay in check with a pretty, let's say, rowdy fandom, can be extremely exhausting. Knowing Liam Vickers' legacy or past work and seeing his continuous patterns that he uses throughout all of his work may help us try to predict what he could do next, perhaps in a new show or continuing a past series, such as Internation Cube or Close Side or something else I forgot to mention or don't even know about. Of course, though, we should still take into account that Liam Vickers is resting, and we should let him do that. I'm pretty sure that goes without saying, but honestly, I don't even know what to expect from the Murder Drones fandom anymore. But that's pretty much the entirety of Liam Vickers' legacy. Of course, I did skip, or at least pass over, or forget to mention lots of Liam Vickers' work, especially in SSCWL, so if you want a more in-depth video, let me know in the comments and leave a like on this video. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one.